family dogs the new courtroom security, and interrupting children the new rowdy members of the public. This transformation was only possible due to the commitment of the profession to ensuring that the wheels of justice continue to turn. This is something for which we should all be immensely proud. Of course, that is not the only change that has occurred in the legal profession. For about 100 years after the first admission ceremony was held in New South Wales, women were not allowed to be admitted into the profession. A century later in this state, more than half of the solicitors with a practising certificate are women, and many of the most senior positions in the law are held by women, including, of course, the Chief Justice of Australia and the Chief Justice of Victoria, Queensland, and the Australian Capital Territory. The profession is more diverse than ever before, and this is something we should celebrate. Of course, there's still a long way to go in improving the diversity of our profession. I'm the first to admit that there are more people that look like me in senior positions in the law than look like anyone else in the community. Systemic barriers, inappropriate workplace behaviour, and prejudices continue to hinder women and those from diverse cultural and socio-economic backgrounds from fully and equally participating in the legal profession. This does need to change. Our profession is only as strong as it is diverse. Public confidence in our legal system is founded on the profession serving the entire community, rich or poor, privileged or vulnerable. An inclusive profession also strengthens access to justice by providing culturally and gender-sensitive services. No one, irrespective of their gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, disability or socio-economic background, should be left out or left behind from pursuing a career in the law. But when we look at how far we have come, I'm confident that these barriers can be finally overcome. This is a period of great change in the legal profession. There is an increasing recognition that more must be done to ensure all lawyers have a safe workplace, free from sexual harassment, discrimination and bullying. The normalisation of working from home will make the profession more family friendly long after the pandemic passes, and recent changes to the Legal Services Award will better protect the well-being of graduate lawyers. I believe that the pace and scale of this change is a cause for great hope. You are becoming lawyers at a time like no other. Our world is reeling from the turmoil of a pandemic, which has generated fear and uncertainty, destroyed livelihoods, and curtailed movements across suburbs, states and countries. Despite the crisis, the rule of law has not been suspended. In fact, it is more important than ever. History has taught us that human rights are at their most vulnerable at times of crisis. When significant decisions are necessarily made with great speed and without precedent, parliamentary sessions are suspended and unprecedented powers are given to executive governments and their agencies, the role of lawyers in upholding the rule of law is more crucial than ever. The scale and severity of the pandemic has raised complex legal issues that strike at the heart of our democracy and civil liberties. How do we balance public health and the right to freedom of assembly? How do we ensure expanded police powers are used in such a way as to protect the community? How do we enable those fleeing persecution to exercise their rights to seek asylum in the face of travel bans and border disclosures? As lawyers, the commitment you have made today to uphold the rule of law is critical to ensuring that emergency measures balance public health considerations and civil liberties. The balance can only be struck in an environment of contestation and scrutiny by lawyers bringing matters before the courts. Our profession plays an essential role in ensuring that emergency measures are transparent, proportionate, and applied in a non-discriminatory manner. At the same time, it is more important than ever that we connect the law with its profound human implications. The impact of the law in our lives has never been so pronounced. Lockdowns, border closures and travel bans necessarily impact on our freedom of movement and, in the process, our access to and enjoyment of many other rights. As lawyers, we have a special responsibility to uphold the rule of law by ensuring that the pandemic does not undermine access to justice. As a profession, we must be vigilant in protecting the rights and dignity of those disproportionately affected by emergency measures. We must ensure that even the most vulnerable have access to quality legal representation and to the full benefit of the law. We do this when we use our legal training to help vulnerable workers navigate their employment rights in time of illness, when we use commercial law as a tool to lighten the pressure on small businesses devastated by the restrictions, and when we help survivors of domestic violence in lockdown with abusive partners access their legal services. Our commitment to access to justice requires us to be particularly astute to the injustices facing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. The Black Lives Matter movement has brought the racism, inequality and abuses of power that have haunted our nation for so long to the forefront of public consciousness. This year marks 250 years since Captain Cook first landed in Australia. Despite this significant passage of time, the Black Lives Movement has exposed that our criminal justice system remains a tool of injustice for Indigenous Australians, who are one of the most incarcerated people in the world. The Black Lives Matter and Me Too movements present a challenge to our profession to ensure that calls for change do not pass without systemic reforms. As lawyers, we are called upon to ensure that our justice system is in fact just for all. This happens when we use our legal training to challenge narratives which sustain injustice, use our advocacy skills to defend unpopular causes or clients, whether outside or inside a courtroom, and use our legal knowledge to educate others and better inform public debate. As a member of the legal profession, you are now in a position of great privilege. You will play a trusted role in some of the most testing time in the lives of others. You will be a confidant, an advisor and an advocate to many. You will have as lawyers, we have a responsibility to use our training and knowledge as a tool of change. This year has shown us there is much for us to defend and strengthen, undo and remake. As the newest members of our profession, you have an unparalleled opportunity to be part of this change for the better. Many of you would have chosen to study law because you wanted to promote human rights, to reform policy, or to advocate for the most vulnerable. I urge you today to remember why you decided to study law all those years ago. Irrespective of whether you practice in a commercial firm, a community legal centre, at the bar, or pursue a career outside the law altogether, I encourage you to use your legal knowledge and capacity for critical thinking for the public good. Today, you have joined a profession whose support and collegiality will prove invaluable. It is easy to feel isolated whilst we, as a profession, continue to work predominantly, although to a lesser extent, from home. Remember that even when you are working from home, you are not working alone. Although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case, and I lost many more after that. Throughout my 35 years in practice, I could always count on the other barristers on my floor to share my disappointment with the unfairness of the verdict, the sly tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges. I must put on record that I don't include any of my fellow judges on the bench in that comment. Finally, too many lawyers still feel there is a stigma to talking about their mental health. Looking after your mental health is not something to be ashamed of. There will be time in your career when your work weighs on you to an unhealthy degree, when you feel disheartened or overwhelmed. When this happens, you should take the time to seek professional help and turn to the enduring things in your life, like your family, partners or friends. On behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, can I once again congratulate you on your admission and welcome you to the legal profession. The court will now adjourn.
All stand. This honourable court is now adjourned. God save the Queen. Once again, congratulations to the new lawyers that have been admitted. This now concludes the formal ceremony.